All right, folks, welcome back to the Dev Rev. This is another episode where we discuss being free as developers, free to do the things we want, free of the things that drive us crazy, and just removing all the friction from all of the places where we run into it as developers. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about eliminating boilerplate. And this comes out of a conversation that we had on the Adventures in Angular podcast. When was it? On Wednesday. We talked to Brian and Kevin from Breebug, which is an Angular consultancy out in Denver. And I've gone out there. I've talked to their folks. Jesse Sanders, their CEO, is somebody that I've talked to a bunch at conferences. Really cool guy. So are Brian and Kevin. And yeah, we were talking about Angular schematics. And the idea behind schematics, so Angular provides you with a command line interface that you can use to generate a project. You can also then pull in schematics, and the schematics basically show you how to set up specific things in the project. You can modify files with it. You can create new files with it. So if you need to pull in Bootstrap or something else, there are probably schematics for it, things like that. Or if you need to refactor certain things, so you're going to refactor one way of doing things to another. If it matches a pattern, you can get it to fix it. And it uses the, I forget the name of the thing, but it's essentially the language construct that they use to parse the language. It's the abstract syntax tree. Sorry, you can tell I'm doing this live, right? So anyway, so it uses that, modifies it, and then prints it back to the file. And you can also modify things with strings. But the idea behind it is that you shouldn't have to write the same code over and over and over and over again. It's the same idea with Ruby on Rails, right? They have generators. Now, a lot of people complain about like the scaffold generator in Ruby on Rails, but there's nothing stopping you from creating your own. It's the same thing with a lot of these other command line interfaces. They give you a way to get started. Create React App's another example of this, right? The Vue CLI, they all generate a project for you. If you want something different, they almost all give you a way to modify what you're putting out there. And so you can get rid of all of that boilerplate. And then what you wind up with is something that looks like what you're eventually going to write. And then you can fill in the parts that you need to fill in. So if there's specific logic, if there's funky stuff to fiddle with, et cetera, you get the idea, right? You can fill in the parts you're going to need, and then you can go, or you can put in the parts you're going to need, right? To kind of build up the component or the class or whatever, and then you come back around and you can fill that in. So I can't tell you enough. If you're still sitting down and typing out component blah, 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 or class blah, 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 or, whatever it is, function blah, 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 if it's JavaScript, stop it. Just get in there, get your tool, figure out how to customize that command line interface, and then turn around and make it so that every time you create a new component, every time you create a new whatever, every time you create a new test, every time you create a new service, every time you create a new data model, every time, right? It creates all of that boilerplate for you. It fills in what you can tell it, right? So you give it a class name, it fills in the class name, and then work from there. And as we get further down the road with this, what you'll find is then you can move from, I'm thinking about writing boilerplate. Oh, I spent a half hour on that. And now I'm not in flow anymore. You can just go from flow state to flow state, because the only coming out of flow is essentially going to the command line and saying, I need a class that looks like this. So go set up something that will obviate the need to write your boilerplate. I guarantee you it will save you a ton of time. Your team will love you for it. It's really, really, really awesome. So that's all I've really got on this one. But yeah, go find those automation tools and figure it out, because it'll save you a bunch of time, bunch of effort. Everything will look the same. That makes it easier to read, and you will be happier for it. All right, I'm going to jump off. More videos coming.